Did you hear the lady?
I did. We are recording.
All right, here we are on The Blind Man in Black. And if you like the show, please rate, subscribe, and review. It helps. Also, you can check my wife and I out on TikTok, The Exhausting Sniders. So like to share that as well. And I'm very happy. This is actually the second time we tried this because we had some internet issues last time, but I'm glad we're here again. I'm here with musician, audio engineer, host of the podcast Beyond Barriers Unscripted. Beyond Barriers Unscripted. I don't know, it sounded a little odd the first time I said it. And you can find that wherever podcasts are available. And also assistive technology instructor, specifically my assistive technology instructor, Randy Lee Owen. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Brian.
I was a little stiff. It's early. I stayed up too late last night. I got a little too high.
I was on there with you guys.
I know you dropped off early though.
Yeah, we got a jam session, so I had to get the room rearranged and stuff. So I stayed up till about 2 last night.
Oh, really? You stayed up later than I did. I stayed up till about 12:30, and then
I don't stay up that late usually. I don't think my wife's too happy with me.
I don't either, but I usually try to be in bed by 9, and then I give myself a half hour to unwind, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's exhausting being blind.
Yeah, you're an exhausting Snyder, so right.
That's very true. Very true. But so everybody that's out there listening and watching, Randy, I don't know, how would you describe yourself? Do you prefer to say blind, or what is your preferred, how do you identify with your disability?
I have enough vision to get me in trouble.
Okay.
Just to give you an example. No,
do you say
I'm
I have trouble vision?
I'll say I'm legally blind sometimes. It just kind of in context, if whatever I feel from that person. I'm confident and fine with saying I'm blind, but then you get people, they notice that you have some vision. So it's, we've had a whole discussion about this, and look up the word blind. It's basically you need help to see things that the average person can see from that distance, So I'm legally blind. If you can see the screen right now, I've got a background behind me and I've got it blurred. And it's very blurry. So welcome to my world. That's generally how my vision is, at any distance. So,
okay.
But yeah, I'm legally blind. I'm blind, low vision. Actually, low vision's, it just depends on context and how you feel.
Right. Yeah, I consider myself pretty blind. I mean, I have limited vision, and it keeps getting worse every year. And sometimes I feel like every day. And it's very slow. But let's discuss, we'll discuss all that. Okay. And we'll discuss your situation and everything. But let's discuss how this all began. Where are you from, Randy?
I was born in Woodland, California. And I don't remember living there. My dad went in the Army when I was really young. So my first memories are getting the booster shots, and a little cube of sugar to go overseas. And I think that cube of sugar was actually it was a vaccination. I think it was a vaccine.
Oh, really?
Now, yeah, I'm not sure, but I always thought they gave it to you as a kid because they give you the smallpox in your shoulder, and it hurt. I'm 4 years old, so I always thought they gave it to you as a treat, kind of an incentive. But I had thought I had heard somewhere that the other part of the vaccine was in that sugar cube. So I don't know. This is early 70s. Did you ask
your parents?
No. I never think about it when I'm around them. So
okay, well, ask them for me. I want to know.
And the smell of isopropyl alcohol, in the doctor's office. I just, that's like one of my first memories. That smell.
Right.
Weird, huh?
So what were your parents like?
The early years, Dad was gone. Dad was in the Army. So, but he was always engaged. We did Cub Scout stuff, and Mom stayed home, and then, like a lot of other career military wives, she got a job at the PX. and worked there part-time, and then kind of did photography, but she was home in the younger years. And my dad ended up being a drill sergeant, and the joke is we weren't afraid of him. Mom was the one you didn't mess with,
Right. What is the acronym PX?
Post exchange. Sorry. So the Army
Okay.
has a post exchange. I think the Air Force calls it a base. They'll call it a BX or a base exchange.
Mhm.
Do they call it BX? But yeah, it's just the word they use.
So was he like the drill instructor in Full Metal Jacket?
Oh, no, not at all. My dad's a carpenter and a very creative person. And, what I remember, he was always involved with some kind of arts and crafts or carving wood. He would they'd go on war games in Alaska or whatever, and he would come back with a piece of driftwood it was like a walking cane, and it would have our names all carved into it, beads that would rattle carved into it, like turtles. He has a thing for turtles. He always carved turtles. But he's really, really good at it, and very creative. Mom always sang too. Now that I think about it, both of my parents are pretty creative, because even with the gingerbread houses, Mom went all out. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're sparking those memories now. I haven't thought about this stuff in a while.
So why turtles though? You all right?
I swallowed the coffee the wrong way. Sorry.
I was gonna say, is that Delta? What's going on?
No, I just took a swig of my coffee too quick.
Right.
So
coffee
I
meaning
don't.
whiskey.
No. Too early. Too early. I had enough beer last night, man. So I can't speak for my dead white turtles, but I will say this. I think sea turtles, when you see video of them, if you've ever seen them or you've seen them in the aquarium or whatever, they've got to be one of the most graceful creatures on the planet. They just they fly with their flippers, and they're slow and very graceful. I think they are.
So was he carving sea turtles or just land turtles?
They're always sea turtles. They're always have like the flippers on them, and they're always in a pose like they're swimming. Yeah, he's got at his house. He's got so in Hawaii they have this wood called koa wood. I think it's a native wood there, and it's a real pretty. It's a hardwood, I believe. And you go to his house, and he's got like these statues that are, and they're like floating in the air, but they look like they're swimming, and they're just two turtles.
So if we called him right now, would he answer the question? Why turtles?
I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you this: he's a workaholic.
Right.
He's probably at work. He's going to be 70 this year, and he's going to retire. I don't know when he's going to retire. He's been at the post office. He did 20 years in the Army, and he's got over 20 years at the post office now. He's a carpenter. So
for the post office?
Yeah. Every time they remodel, he's like the head guy that goes and does it in the Sacramento region.
Okay.
Either hires the contractors or does the work himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was your childhood, I mean, obviously you moved around a lot, and how did that feel?
Sucked.
Yeah.
I when you grow up, it was a bummer, especially when you're young, because everything is there. And then now we're coming back to the States, and we're going to move to another country and blah, blah, blah. But I know this, my wife has lived in Sacramento her whole life, and our kids, two of the kids actually have the same teachers that she had.
Oh,
so
really?
I don't have anything like that. I don't have any childhood friends. I just don't, because you move every 3 or 4 years when you're, you get restationed.
Right. Right.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just, that makes sense. And then I was going to ask, when did you learn that you, now we called it Rod Stewart Dystrophy last time.
Yeah. Rod Stewart Dystrophy. That's right.
Rodcohen Dystrophy.
Yeah.
So when did you learn about that?
Oh, wow. That I do remember. I was old enough. It was right when Star Wars came out.
1978.
Later that year. Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so we had come back from Germany on leave, and they couldn't figure out what was that with my eyes. I had to wear a really strong prescription, and I still couldn't. I would sit in the front of the class. I still couldn't see well enough to read the board. And we had blackboards with white chalk back then. So, it just they didn't know. And so when we came back on leave, I think it was 78, And we stopped by this eye institute in Bowling Green, Kentucky for a couple of days, and they did a bunch of tests. They stuck these like contact lens electrodes in my eyes and this gel, and they super dilated my eyes. And the doctor would say, "Hey, do you mind if my colleagues come in and take a look?" And and that's when I found out, they diagnosed me with Rodcohen Dystrophy. And I don't know if I think with dystrophies, there's a group of different things going on. But the way they explained it to me was, you have rods and cones. So rods detect light, and then the cones are color, right? And so on my retinas, he said your retina's like your film, and you have all these little rods and cones on it, and that's how you detect what he explained it. You kind of like have the very early color version, whereas people have like the 4 or 5K version today. So I don't have as many rods and cones as I should to see the definition. And in fact, there's areas apparently on my retinas where there is none of that. It's just bare retina. There's no rods or cones in some of the areas. So
how old were you in 1978?
8. I was born in January of 70, so it's really easy to track my age.
Yeah. So how did you feel when you learned about it?
Relieved. Relieved, and the more I think about it, maybe a little disappointed, because when I was a little boy, you grow up in the military, and all the, the father figures are wearing, it's the 70s, and everybody's wearing uniforms, and that's, of course, that's what you want to do, right? And so the realization, my mom had said stuff, but when I guess, I just kind of took it inside, and it's like, this is it. We know it's what the deal is. They have a name for it. You probably will go blind down the road. We don't know. But it's like, it's okay. The stamp, it's official. You're not going to go in the military.
Right.
And even at the time then, now that I think about it, I always thought that I could see well enough to drive a car. Until I got to that age, and I went down to the DMV and couldn't pass the test, So Brian, I didn't go through vision loss. And I think you and I have talked about this before. I didn't go through a grieving process with it because I didn't have it to lose to begin with. So, and I'm aware of that because the field that I work in, I work with people that many of them are going through the process of losing their vision. And the independence that goes with that, just the ability that you can't drive anymore is devastating to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to go through that. I never could safely drive. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. So I remember
it just was the norm. Like, remember the moment?
No, I was just trying to take in what you were saying. And then I was thinking about the moment that I remember I chose to stop driving. I was living in Valencia, California, which is in Southern California, right a little north of LA. I mean, it's still LA County, but it's where Magic Mountain is, right? I lived on Magic Mountain Parkway, and I could see Magic Mountain from my balcony in my apartment and see the fireworks and everything. Anyway, I was driving towards Magic Mountain on Magic Mountain Parkway, and there's a Starbucks right before the 5 freeway. And I was going to make a left turn to go get a drink. And I remember just very slowly, this is like I believe a 4-lane road, maybe 6, I'm not sure. But I made a left very slowly, and this bicycle went in front of me. It wasn't really that close. He didn't, the bicyclist didn't care, didn't look back, didn't really, I looked at him and then, drove on. And then I realized I should have saw him before I made the turn. And
so were you starting to lose the peripheral vision first, or?
Well, it starts out with not being able to see in low lighting.
Okay.
And then I started losing peripheral, and then there's something called photopsia, which is flashing lights in the eyes, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so I have a lot of visual noise. It's not like a peaceful darkness. It's very, very noisy and blurry, and the sun's too bright, the shadows are too dark, and there's not any definition, and it's physically painful. But my point
exhausting, I would imagine. Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said I would imagine it's exhausting.
Yes, that's why I'm an exhausting Snyder. And so I remember that when that happened, it wasn't that close, but I thought, I should have saw him. And if I had been in a hurry, and really not paying attention, that would have been horrible. And I would not have wanted to stop driving because I had injured or killed somebody. And that would have, I mean, I don't think if I had injured somebody or whatever, the guilt would have been overwhelming. I don't think I could have handled it. And so at that moment, I said to myself, that was 2008, July of 2008. I said, I'm going to stop driving before I injure somebody. And I'm happy I made that decision. It was painful. I probably could have driven maybe for a few more years, but I'm glad that I stopped. And, but it's still, it's hard because you lose that ability to be independent in that way. And it's very difficult. I mean, it's nice to be able to get in the car and go to the store or do something. You can't do that when, as you're aware, when you're blind, you have to plan everything out and either use public transportation, but all that.
Yep.
But how did your parents deal with the diagnosis?
I don't think I was ever treated differently. I was never told that you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, I went shooting guns, when I was a teenager, and I played sports. I played baseball. I never hit the ball, but I did
not
all the
once,
things,
even by accident.
No, man. So 1981, 82, we're at Fort Benning, Georgia, and I, of course, play baseball because all the kids, my brother's playing, all the neighborhood kids are playing. I didn't want to be different, So I go to play ball. We lost every game of the season
because of you.
No, we just our team sucked, man. But we were called the Blues, and we had these, and it was
and
this
you
is
had
when
the Blues.
We did, and they used to make fun of us because there was a movie called The Bad News Bears that came out about the same time, and they'd call us the Bad News Blues. And we had these white ball caps, and the mom had taken like felts and a Sharpie and had written in calligraphy Blues, and then they literally glued it on the hat. Whereas all the other teams, like the Yankees and the Cubs, they had like the real official logos and stuff. So we were just the ultimate in the do-it-yourself, lose every game team. But the interesting thing is, I made play of the year for that team. They stuck me out in left. I think it's left field out there between second and third.
Isn't that where they put everybody? I mean, I played left field and I wasn't very good. Isn't that where they put everybody that doesn't play very well out in left field?
That's exactly where they put me.
Yeah.
And what happened was, this was like the second to last game of the season, and the ball got smacked, and it was handed to me.
Right.
It like hit the ground right in front of me and bounced into my glove. And they're throw the ball. And I threw as hard as I could at the area for home base. And I got the guy out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, and I really threw as hard as I could, and I wasn't sure I was going to hit the target, but yeah. So even though I remember, please just hit me with the ball and walk me, at least don't get on base,
I remember a similar experience. I mean, I was on a little league team, the Yankees, when I was little, but I didn't do very well. But I remember like freshman year of high school, I remember because everybody didn't expect me to do very well. And I remember somebody hit a high pop-up fly ball type thing. And I just remember looking up and I was like, I'm not going to catch this. This is good. Everybody's going to make fun of me. I'm not going to catch it. It's a real slow. And I caught it. And I was so relieved. I mean, it was my shining moment of athleticism. Yeah. And I can relate to this day. Yeah.
I can relate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of the Bad News Bears, my brother was friends with one of
Henry
the kids.
Rollins?
Yeah, Henry Rollins was friends with one of the Bad News Bears because my father, he had a friend named Ronnie Marks, and so Brett Marks was in that movie as one of the kids.
Oh wow!
Yeah, yeah, you should ask him about it.
I will.
Henry
I
Rollins.
can't wait till we get back in the office. Yeah, Henry Rollins.
Are you going to start just
He's-
calling him Henry?
The thing is, at the staff, I think I told you this before, we do a good morning meet and greet kind of email in the morning. And so I always reply to it. And then it's like this last week I've been putting in there, does anybody know who Henry Rollins is? And my supervisor calls me the other day and he's all, dude, what's the matter? What's going on? Who's Henry? What's going on with? And I told him, I said, Shane really kind of resembles Henry Rollins. And he started laughing. But Shane hasn't said anything about it.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure. Well, the problem is he doesn't really know who Henry Rollins is. So it doesn't mean anything to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if he had, been in the punk rock scene, he might have a more emotional response to it. But yeah, he doesn't know who that is at all. So, but anyway, so how did you, what did you want to do growing up? Like, what was your dream? You mentioned the military. You were thinking being in the military?
Doesn't every young boy want to fly planes?
Right.
That's true. Go to space. Seriously, that's what I wanted to do. But, you won't see well enough to do that. So I got into computers when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, and I was introduced to programming, BASIC and Logo and a couple other languages. I wanted to work for NASA. I wanted to be a computer programmer for NASA. I got to go see in 5th grade, the first shuttle launch, the Columbia launch. My science teacher took me and 2 other students. That's what I wanted to do, just be a computer programmer. And when my folks divorced in 84 and we came out here, that whole family structure, that security, you're on your own now.
Wait a minute. That must have been a difficult year because 84 was a great year for movies. So
Purple Rain,
Ghostbusters.
I'm a big Prince fan. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies that came out that year. So are they all
a lot
tainted?
of great music too?
Right.
Huh?
Are they all tainted now?
No. I have very fond memories of 84.
Return of the Jedi, E.T. Was E.T. 84?
Something tells me that was 82. It might. I'm not sure, but you're the film expert.
Hey Siri, what year did E.T. release? Hey Siri, are you there?
I'm listening.
What year did E.T. release?
Which one? Here are some options. E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
That one.
Scooby-Doo and the Legend of the Vampire. E.T.'s Among Us 4. The reality of E.T. human hybrids.
Can you hear that?
Baby Shark and more kids songs by Bob the Train.
Baby Shark.
Acapulco HEAT. Do you want
E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, that one.
E.T. the Extraterrestrial was released the 11th of June, 1982.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, there was a show called At the Movies with Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel.
I remember that. My father used to watch that. Yeah.
I watched that and America's Top 40 and America's Top 10 every weekend religiously. Yeah. And I remember when Empire Strikes Back came out and they showed the battle scene on Hoth when the snow speeders come out and the walkers. That blew my mind, dude. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Yeah, those I don't know. I mean, the computer animation stuff, I mean, I can't see anything anymore, but I don't know. The models seemed very realistic, even more so than the computer animation. I know some of it, it looked a little odd, but I don't know.
I always liked the stop motion stuff better.
Right.
I always thought it was better quality. Now, I remember the first time I saw Jurassic Park, and that was something else.
Right.
There was that one, and then I think the Terminator, when the cop was like a liquid steel and they shot him, and that was all CGI.
Right.
But yeah, Jurassic Park was really, really good. It was believable, at least for me, it was.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, there's been some really good computer animated stuff, but so you wanted to become a computer programmer. Yep. Sorry, I'm slurring. Anyway, so you wanted to do that. My voice is real tight. I don't know. I'm really stressed. But anyway, so you wanted to do that. That seems so irritating as somebody with low vision to have to listen to a screen reader read programming? I mean, I know that there are.
I didn't know anything
it would
about
be-
screeners.
Okay.
I was still doing it visually at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, Brian, I would have my face on the screen like this. It was a black screen. We did DOS,
Right.
you know, but my face would be literally 2 inches from the screen. And I remember when I was in 10th grade, it was right after the Challenger explosion. Later that week, I was taking Pascal programming at the high school, and my attendance was really poor. I just had some personal things, you know, going on. And I remember the instructor called me to the side. He goes, you know, you're very gifted at this. You're very good at it. He goes, I know you get it, but you really, really struggle. You can't see the screen. And he goes, and if you're going to be competitive, this isn't going to work. And he actually recommended that I drop the class.
Really?
And it wasn't, you know, and at that time and in my state of mind, I just kind of used that as an excuse to step back from it instead of push for it, which normally I would have pushed for something like that. But it wasn't the eyesight. It was my attendance. I know it was.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I would cut half the day of school and I would go to that class because I love that class.
Well, it's shitty that he said that. I mean, how did that make you feel?
Like I said, I think I just kind of used it as an excuse. You know, you got to remember at this time, so my parents divorced in '84. I go from a very regimented, strict, structured household lifestyle, right? To basically, you can go do whatever the hell you want to do. There's no supervision. Go ahead and call the house because, and report my absence because there's no phone. Who are you going to call, right? So,
right. I was going to say Ghostbusters, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, let's just make this up as you go. And then, you know, of course I start like, you know, I'm at that age, I like girls. I'm hiding my thick glasses because the girls don't dig it. And you know, my whole work ethic just went to shit, man. I mean, I don't know another way to say it. I just did what I wanted to do. And I didn't have any consequences, you know, and I was just kind of, and when you live totally structured, you would think that you would know what to do. But I always had that. Somebody always would tell me what's next, I think. And, you know, of course, part of growing up is you're not going to always have somebody tell you what's next. And it was just, you know, you live the military lifestyle and then you're just cut completely free to go do what you want to do.
What was the transition though? I'm not sure I'm following that. Like, so why was everything was it the divorce that
it was the divorce? Yeah. So when we divorced, right after my mom and dad got divorced, we stayed in Georgia. So my mom and my brother and I moved off base into Columbus, and she was seeing somebody else. She got involved with somebody else. And
was that the reason for the divorce?
You know, I don't know. I don't know. So dad gets orders to go to Hawaii. He comes over, you know, we're living in a trailer park because we're living with mom. And dad comes by one night, you know, we went to go see Purple Rain, I think it was.
What did he think of that as a drill sergeant?
I thought he thought it was excellent.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Except for the scene with Prince backhands, that wasn't cool. That right. was like, really, dude, you were my hero until you did that, you know.
Right.
But
he's pretty I heard very misogynistic, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but I loved his music. I love the percussions in it, just the funkiness. I've always, you know, even when I play drums, I kind of play that kind of style. People will trip off it. But I just that was the first radar movie we were allowed to go see. We didn't have to turn our heads.
Right.
So
things loosened up quite a bit.
So they divorce. Okay. They divorce. Dad gets orders to go to Hawaii. He comes, we go see the movie that night. He's like, Randy, you know, you're 14. I got orders to go to Hawaii. You can either come stay with you and your brother, Eddie. You know, I need you to make the decision. You either come stay with me or you can stay with your mom. And of course I chose to stay with mom because dad was gone all the time growing up. You know, he was in infantry as an enlisted man. So, and this, you know, during the Cold War, they were always out at war games. So what happened was things just did not, you know, we had to come back home. We literally came out on a Greyhound bus. My mother was 7 months pregnant with twins. My brother was like 10. I was 14, or no, I just turned 15 when we got out here. We got out here February 5th, 1985. But we went the southern route on a Greyhound bus from Columbus, Georgia to Sacramento. And then we stayed over with my grandmother, you know, sleeping on the floor in the living room. And that's how we came in. And my mom, like I said, she was pregnant. She had twins and had a new family. And by the time we got housing here, she had other priorities. And it was like, we're old enough to take care of ourselves, I guess. And then Eddie went to Hawaii and lived with my dad. But
which is not a bad move.
He got in all kinds of trouble, but yeah, Hawaii was awesome. He said, yeah. And I look back at it, it's like, dude, you blew a chance to go to Hawaii. But anyways, but I wouldn't have my kids and my family that I have now, because part of that was, you know, I think I looked for another family, you know, and I remember we lived on the street of Rundle, and there was this family down the street that the kids were like my age, and they had a big sister that was my age, right? And so I kind of adopted that family, even though they were dysfunctional, they were alcoholic and all this stuff, but they were still a family unit. They still went and did things together. They might have fought with each other, but it was still a family, you know? And so when I was 17, I moved out, and I could, you know, at this point, it's like, we don't have any phone at the home. I can, and
was
the family
that
I had, just never paying the bills.
Okay.
Just, you know, struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, mom struggling, you know. She was a housewife for all those years, and she did photography on the side, but never really, you know, she had a couple retail jobs, but never really, you know, it's hard out there. So she did run a daycare center, but you know, you're just kind of left to, there were no consequences for whatever I did. You know what I mean? And yeah.
I want to go back to one thing you said earlier. You said when you learned about your Stewart dystrophy, that Rodcohen dystrophy, that you were relieved. What was that? Because what was that about?
Well, there was a name for it. I mean, when you don't know something, like I'll give you an example. We've been quarantining the last week because we got exposed, right? Now or there was a chance that we got somebody else in the family got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we've been around them. So, you know, but it's that whole time of not knowing. And then when you finally know, it's like, okay, now I know what I can do. What's next? And I think at an early age, I knew that I wasn't going to fly planes. I was pretty sure I'd be able to drive a car, but I started thinking about things, you know, what do you like to do? What are you good at? And what's something that's going to be appropriate that you can do realistically? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I made, you know, you and I had that conversation, and as you're going through vision loss and these things, you kind of, sometimes you make changes or you make sacrifices or you step back a little bit from your dreams. And I think I kind of started that process there, but I knew that I could do that job. And then when Mr. Baker told me, you know, to drop the class, like I said, I just feel like, you know, and at that time, there wasn't really anything else going on in my life other than the girlfriend and the friends and, you know, the freedom of, maybe it was the freedom. I saw it as being free, because when you live on a military base, you know, you have to always dress nice, no garbage anywhere. You have to take an ID card with you. It's very structured, right? You don't act a fool. You don't go in the store and talk real loud. You know what I mean? You go in a cafeteria, it's quiet. And then, you know, the total opposite of that, when you go out into civilian life and you don't have anybody there to kind of, hey, don't do that, you're going to burn yourself, you know?
Well, I want to ask you something about Mr. Baker. Do you feel that what he said hindered you in some way? Because the reason I mention that is because when I used to be an actor and a director and work in the entertainment industry, and one of the things, you know, I would do is I went from acting, and when I thought I couldn't do that for whatever reason, from an able-bodied kind of perspective, I would move on to directing, and I would move on to, you know, one thing after another. And I didn't really adapt to what I wanted to do because I didn't really have anybody with a disability to kind of guide me. What I heard a lot, and this may be wrong. This may be a clouded memory, but I feel like people would say to me, you can do it for as long as you can, rather than saying you can still do what you want to do. You're just going to have to do it differently than everybody else. Now, when Mr. Baker said to you, I don't think you can do this, I mean, how did that make you feel? Did you say like, well,
I think coming from him, because I had a high regard for him.
mm-hmm.
I had a lot of respect for him, and I don't know, maybe I didn't question it. I just, maybe he's worked in this field, he can see, but I still think there was part of me that just wanted to go do what they wanted to do. It's like, fine, now I don't have to come to class at all. I can just cut class the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Maybe you better find something else to do, because now you can't do this. And I think you and I talked before about my love for audio production, and it was about that time I went to National Broadcasting School in '88, I think, and I started. I worked in radio at a classical radio station for a couple of years, but it's I guess it's kind of like I'm going to be an actor, and then so I step back. I'm having issues seeing on the stage with the lighting, so I go back and be a director, and you find yourself kind of pushing away from what that dream was.
But I have an enormous amount of regret. But even right now, as we speak, I'm 43 years old, and then I go, what the fuck did I do? Like, if I had embraced my disability early on and like incorporated it into the things that I did, I think I would probably still be doing it. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't really know. But I mean, I know that when I was in high school, I said to myself, I don't want to have a 9-to-5 fucking job. I don't want to do that. And I would say to myself, why do people do that? Why do they work these 9-to-5 jobs that they hate and feel empty inside and unfulfilled and like and not making any money? And I'm like, why do people do this? And this was in high school. I mean, that's a very privileged like statement, but like I was like, why do people do this? And then like as I went through life, I was like, I started to go, oh, I can't do this the way I want to do it, so I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
And that was the way what I did with acting, and then I moved on to directing, and then the same thing. I just kept changing because I thought I couldn't do it the way I wanted to do it, rather than being like, I'm going to embrace this disability. I'm going to do it this way, and I can be a blind actor and play many roles. I mean, there's so many. Like when I think about it, like if I had been auditioning and something like that, they may not have thought of a character as blind, but then they might have gone, oh, well, he is blind. Why don't we make the character blind? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that, the interesting thing is that it was a couple months ago where I work, we have these guest speakers come in that are blind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all career based, and it's supposed to be motivational. Well, the irony is about 2 months ago, we had a blind computer engineer from NASA come in and be our guest speaker. I'm not exaggerating.
How did that make you feel, honestly?
It did make me reflect, and it's like, you fool, you should have stuck with it, because I was pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
It just came natural to me, the logic behind it. And if you really, really wanted that, and knowing what I know now, hell, I could have got paid to go to school. You know what I mean? To do that. I did, but I was so self-conscious about it. Even with screen readers, even with the magnifiers, Brian, I don't know in high school that I would have embraced that. I did not embrace my blindness until I was 46 years old, until I was working with people with vision loss, and I started making friends, and I started, that's how I got back to music, my love for, playing music, because I did play trumpet in junior high. but I had to stop that because I couldn't take 2 electives. So when I was in second half of the 7th grade, I had to either take the computer class or the band. And I took the computers. And the irony with that is, you know, even though after Mr. Baker, I stepped away from computers probably for a decade. When Windows came out, I hated it because I could not see that mouse pointer. And the screen was white, and it would just glare the letters out. So I avoided it. And you know, come to find out, they had this program called JAWS back then. But nobody ever said anything to them. I wasn't blind enough.
Yeah,
That
is an odd place to be. Like, when I can tell you from my own perspective, like, sometimes I go, and I've talked to Henry Rollins about this. You know, I asked him one time, do you feel like you adapted early enough? And he said, I think I did it, I did things when I needed them. And I think, I was thinking, if I tried to learn, I mean, you know, because you worked with me, that even if you tell me 1 week and then the following week, may not remember it. But think about it. If I had tried JAWS training 10 years ago, I wouldn't remember shit. You
had more vision then.
Yeah. And I wouldn't, the only way to remember things, and at least in my perspective, is to constantly do it over and over again and have that muscle memory. And so, yeah, it's an odd place to be in the low vision spectrum, because you can sometimes fall back on the limited vision, right?
I can. When I say, you know, you asked me earlier, how do I identify it, essentially? And I said, I have enough vision to get me in trouble. And that's the truth. If I don't go out with my white cane, I will find the biggest crack in the sidewalk and I'll trip over it. And people will think I'm drunk.
Right.
Or I'm terrified to cross streets without it, because there's just, at least I know, and if I'm paying attention and I'm listening and I'm oriented and I go out with that cane, there's a good chance that the driver's going to see that cane. It's not 100%, I get it, but that's the world we live in. It's just life, right? But there's a way to identify with the cane, but I actually use it for safety reasons. I had some clown, it was a couple of years ago, I was walking down S Street, and this dude comes right up alongside me in his car. He's all, "Stop faking it, dude."
Oh, really?
And I was so embarrassed. I was furious. You know, I was like, "Get out of the car. I'll show you. Come here." You know what I mean? And that 16-year-old came out at me. But the thing is, I know that's my feelings. I was embarrassed. He's just being a 16-year-old clown, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at 50 years old, to get that, to feel that intense about it, when it's like, where did that come from? Because I've been dealing with this my whole life, so it doesn't usually bother me.
Yeah, but it is odd when somebody questions. I've had that experience like that. I remember in 2010, I was getting self-conscious about bumping into people in public. So I would carry my cane around. I wouldn't use it, just so I didn't have to explain to people that I had low vision. And then one time I remember I was in this natural food place in Grass Valley, and I went up to the register, and the cashier was like, why do you have a cane? You can see fine. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then I stopped using it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then I started using it again when I lived in Mexico. But yeah, I mean, I've had that happen. I remember an incident a few years ago with a schizophrenic guy at my work. He was having a psychotic episode, and he was reciting lines from the Karate Kid, and and then
wax on, wax off.
No, he was doing like the Cobra Kai stuff, like no mercy for the weak, you know, all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And and he went up to me, he's like, "You're not blind." And he's like, and the reason being is because I wear glasses, you know, because I have a little bit, and it helps sometimes just for orientation. And so he thought I wasn't blind. And so I get that every once in a while, and it's weird. It's really an odd experience to somebody.
Why would I fake it? Why would I fake it?
Yeah, like blind? Why? Like, what's the benefit? What is the?
I know, because I get a discount on my RT pass. That's it.
I suppose, but that's a lot of work to carry. I mean,
exactly.
If you think about it, having a cane is just like something that is always in the way a lot of the time.
Yeah, because now you only have one hand to carry stuff with. Yeah.
And then you have the strap to put it on your wrist, which helps sometimes. But
I was told don't ever use that.
I use it at the ATM. I think it's perfect time to use it because you can use both hands, but keep it without putting it anywhere.
The idea, though, what I was taught is if you we had a student one time that was on an O&M and he had his cane. He was on an O&M lesson and it was at 16th and R, I think. No, 16th for Q.
Hold on. For those listening and watching, O&M stands for orientation and mobility.
Cane trap. So he's learning how to use a cane and get around independently, right? Mm-hmm. And so he goes to step off the curb and he puts his cane out and this car ran over his cane.
Right.
Now, the thing is, if that lanyard was around your wrist and that car takes the cane, now the lanyards are a little, most likely the thing's going to break off anyways, but we were always told, don't put it around your wrist. That's to kind of like hang it up on the door.
Oh, I mean, the only time I ever put it around my wrist is when I'm like at the ATM. That's literally the only time I do it. So I have,
I'll
my
wrap
hands
around my thumb sometimes. Yeah. But
So what kind of trouble did you get into?
I've walked up to the wrong gal thinking she was my wife.
Oh, you mean like did you touch her?
No, but she started to back away and my buddy's like, Randy, that's not Tracy. and of course I didn't have my cane, so she just thought I was a creep.
Oh, right.
Right. So this is what I mean. You have enough vision to get in trouble, or you're walking down the street and you're tripping over every crack because people think you're drunk, or I've gotten in the wrong car before.
I've done that. I remember in around, I would say 2013 sometime, I was coming out of Staples and I got into a car. It was like a Subaru. And I remember sitting there and like, this feels really low and weird. And then this dog came up to me right up my left side. And I'm like, I'm in the wrong fucking car.
I'm really glad that wasn't a Rottweiler.
Yeah, I know. I mean, luckily I didn't get bit or something, but it was an odd experience.
There's stuff. I've started a conversation with somebody that wasn't who I thought it was because I can tell they're there, but I can't really see the detail in the face and the facial expressions. Most of it, Brian, is I just need to slow down. If I would just slow down, a lot of this stuff wouldn't happen. And I mean, when I work with students, that's a big, you've heard it before, just slow down for a minute, orient yourself. And usually when I have those types of things, that's what it is I just need to slow down and take an inventory,
Now, when we had our last conversation, one of the things that I said was being blind is a time suck. It takes so much extra time.
It does.
Out of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still have problems with that to this day where I'm like, if I could see, this would take me 3 seconds. And I'm like, this is so much fucking wasted time. And I have so much trouble coming to grips with that, of being like, this is how it is. I got to forgive myself. This is not, it's okay. This is how I need to function. But I still get angry. I get pissed off. Do you get pissed off?
Yeah. And anger's secondary emotion. It's based in fear. And it's like, well, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid I'm going to be late. It's feeling like you're under pressure. When you're under pressure.
Great song by Queen and David Bowie, by the way.
It is. And the Foo Fighters do a pretty good version of it too.
I have not heard that one. I heard Willie Nelson's recent one.
Taylor Hawkins gets out and sings it. And when they do their shows, a lot of times they'll get some kid from the audience to come up and play drums, and he'll surrender his drum kit. And it's pretty cool. But
yeah, my wife loves the Foo Fighters.
Yeah. Dave Grohl's pretty awesome, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think she would definitely leave me for Dave Grohl. I'm pretty sure.
The whole band, their whole band's pretty. Pat Smear's a big name in punk. Guitars from way back. But anyways,
speaking of music though, why the trumpet?
Because they wouldn't let me play drums. I wanted to play drums, and they had 11 spots open in the band. And I think, honestly, looking back at it, was you had to stand behind a snare drum, and then you would have the music stand in front of you. There was no way I was going to be able to read that sheet music from there.
Oh,
when I played trumpet, I could put the sheet music here, and could look at it. And the other thing is my glasses, I couldn't read out of them. The distance was better, but because I had to get stuff so close, the glasses wouldn't focus there. So I would always look out of the corner, and I'd have the sheet music to my right side, and I'm looking out the corner. And then when it came time to perform, because I don't want to look any different than anybody else, I just practiced and learned the music, and just practiced and learned the music, and practiced and learned the music. You know, we have that discussion now. People are like, I don't want to learn. Well, what's the point in having Braille music? And it's like, well, you read it, so that way, you know the score.
No, I hear you. I mean, as an actor, I wasn't.
You're not going to read it as you're playing it, though.
Say that again.
You're not going to read it as you're playing it.
Right.
But voiceover actors, they go in, they do a cold read, or they've got, I did an interview with Roy Samuelson. He goes, sometimes I'll come in there and it's a totally cold thing. I haven't had a chance to read it. Or sometimes I'll come in and I read my parts, and in 30 minutes we're on, and I better know my parts.
Yeah.
So the pros can do that, whether you're sighted or not. I really do believe that. And in, with music, I play with a bunch of blind people, and the ones that need to know the
that sounded a little odd, but yeah.
Oh, well, I play music with a lot of the people I play music with are blind, and the ones who want the music written out, you come up with a way for your own tablature to note it down. So some people use audio notes, some people will type it out in Word, some people use the notes app on their phone. Yeah. So, and I'm kind of rambling, huh?
No, not at all. I'm just trying to think. I can relate. And the other thing I wanted to go back to was what I was actually alluding to was what kind of trouble did you get into in your teen years?
Cutting school, which was really stupid. And then I said this before, my name's Randy. And
did I not introduce you as Randy?
No, but no, you did, but I lived up to my name. Randy is a slang for horny.
Right.
In England. I have 7 kids. I have 7 biological kids.
And my wife, when I told her that, she's like, Jesus Christ, settle down.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying that got me into trouble, but I think cutting school and just not following through with things.
And there was something about driving, if I remember.
Oh yeah, you had to bring that up, didn't you?
What, did you not want me to bring it up? We don't have to discuss it if you don't want.
It's fine. So, okay. So I want to say, 18, I was driving a car around and I'm going to take the driver's test. And I didn't go until, the truth is I didn't go till I was 19, because I had that fear. I'm going to go in there and I'm not going to be able to do it and blah, 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 And so, even though the very first car I ever drove, I wrecked it. And that wasn't a vision thing. I was in a Cadillac and it was a big boat, and I turned the wheel too hard and the car started swaying. And when I stopped it, it was in gravel and it ripped the bumper off. There was a tree stump that ripped the bumper off. And see, there I go again. It wasn't my vision, right? But that's kind of the mentality.
Didn't you steal that car?
I did. Yeah. Technically, yes. It was my roommate's car. You just have to put me on just out there, don't you?
Well, it's all right. We all make, we all have our things. I work in the adult film industry. I'm not really proud of it, but I did it. And we all have our lives. And I think if we are more accepting and non-judgmental, I think everyone would get along a little better.
So, I take this Cadillac from my roommate. He's gone at work and he had the 76 Coupe de Ville. It's a big old boat.
Yeah.
And I'm coming back and we're doing, maybe 30 miles an hour, and there's a gradual curve in the road. And by the way, I can't see yellow, and there's a double yellow line that you're supposed to say.
What does it look like?
I don't see it. It's invisible to me.
Oh, it's completely invisible.
I do not see things on the red spectrum out in sunlight. No.
So you don't see any contrast between the road and the yellow lines.
Nope.
That's interesting.
Nope. So as we go, the road starts to have a gradual curve to the left, and the guy I was with, he's all, dude, you're going in the other lane. So of course, that power steering in that boat, I kind of jerked the wheel.
Just a slight little.
But it was quick, and I mean, the first time I ever drove, and so the car starts to sway and it's oscillating back and forth, and all I can do is just let off the gas, and I get it over in the gravel, and I can tell I was in the gravel because you can hear it, and as soon as I hit the brake, it started to slide a little bit, and there was a tree stump that caught the back passenger corner of the car with a bumper, and it ripped the bumper off. So, we get the car back. My roommate actually made me buy the car and promised I wouldn't drive it. So I bought the car. As soon as I got the pink slip, I sold it to this older guy, and it had a Cadillac 500, the big V8.
Mm-hmm.
The guy took the motor out of it and put it in a hot rod boat. He souped it all up, and yeah, pretty cool. But I still kept driving, and what I would literally do was I'd have my brother or somebody with me in the passenger seat. Is it light green? Is it red? Blah, 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 and I did that for a few years. And I remember, I think it was 94, 93. I was going across town in Sacramento, and I was by myself. And there's an intersection of El Camino and Del Paso, and I didn't see the red light. And I went through it. And I mean, Brian, I almost got broadsided by a UPS truck.
Mm-hmm.
And the miracle is nobody got hurt, and there was a cop there.
Mm-hmm.
And the cop pulled me over and impounded my car, and that's when I quit driving. But it could have been a lot worse. If I knew that cop, I'd tell him thank you so much today, because I probably would have kept driving, probably would have hurt somebody, so that was a long time ago. And we I don't know. I'm just grateful nobody got hurt, and that I, am comfortable with not driving. Just a second.
Right.
I'm back.
Oh, I thought you were going to answer it.
No, it's one. I'll call him back. It's one of my sons.
Okay. Do you want to discuss what happened after that? We don't have to, but since you mentioned it last time, it's a great story.
Jail. You want to know about the jail story?
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
Yes,
I want to talk about Folsom Prison.
So, folks, this is why you must obey the law and take care. And remember, I said, and part of that, you asked me, and I'm kind of thinking in the big scheme of things. What are these common things that get you in trouble? And one of them was not taking care of your business. So I get it. So when I got pulled over that day, of course, the cop, he towed my car and then gave me a ticket for driving without a license. Well, guess what? Randy never went to court. Never went to court. And so when you don't go to court, you get a failure to appear. It's called a bench warrant. Those things don't go away. So it's like 6-7 years later, I'm getting divorced from my first wife. And
can you refer to yourself in the third person for the rest of the show? Because I like that.
Okay.
Randy gets divorced from his wife.
So Randy finally, and the thing is, and yes, that's a whole different story, because the thing is, we had been separated for years. We just never finalized the divorce. Uh-huh. So again, Randy's not taking care of business. So Randy gets to go to court. He's late for court. This is a divorce court, and we're going to talk about child support and visitation and stuff. And of course, Randy's late. So he goes in there, and the bailiff walks up to him. And he says, "Mr. Owen, we've already had your hearing. You're late. And by the way, there's a bench warrant. And if you were in here, they would have taken you into custody. So you need to take care of this and make a new court date." So I go down to the county jail on a Sunday evening.
Sacramento
County jail. Uh-huh. And I go down there, and I didn't tell you this part. I'm wearing freaking spandex Nike bike shorts.
Okay.
I didn't tell you.
You mean
this
like the
part.
tight, like
Yes, I was into cycling at the time.
okay.
Okay, so I go down, and I'm not thinking. I mean, I wore these things around all the time with a shirt or whatever. But when you go to jail, they take all that shit off you. They take
Right.
you wear Bubba's drawers, you know.
Right.
And so I go down there.
Was it an
and
orange suit?
Oh yeah, I wore the pumpkin suit. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the underwear were like 5 times. You could have put 3 of me in the underwear. It's like, so
they don't want you to hide anything in there.
Nope. But
Yeah.
it's ridiculous when you got to hold them up when you're walking.
Yeah.
So, so I spent a couple days in jail for a no bail warrant, and I was in there, and I wouldn't survive in prison. I just wouldn't. They put
Because
me
you
in a
look like
cell.
Robert Downey Jr. I hear.
No, no, it's just it's not me, dude. It's just not my thing. I remember I was in there. I don't see that well, so of course I can't see the clock. You don't bang on the window and ask anybody what time it is. You're locked down for 23 hours. The hour that they let you out to go shower and take a phone call. Well, I get out on Monday, and I'm in line waiting to make a phone call, and it's like the person before me, they lock us down, and the construction comes in and rips the phones out, replaces the phone. So I'm in this place for a couple of days. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and these guys wearing trustees. It says trustee on their uniform, and they're watching freaking Star Wars on cable TV out in the pod, right? And it's like, dude, I just have a traffic ticket, and so it was cruel and unusual punishment, man. So when I go Tuesday to go to court, they take us down. There's like underneath the street, there's like a tunnel that you go through to get over to the courthouse. And they sit you in this hallway until you get called to go up to court. And there must have been 300 of us in there, right? And these guys are it's a family reunion. And one guy's all, dude, I've been in here 10 times in the last year. And I'm thinking, that movie Shawshank Redemption, when you must not be a good criminal, you get caught. And it scared the hell out of me. And so they go through all this stuff, and they call everybody to court. Of course, they don't call me. It's an old case, right? So the cops all, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And he comes back like a half hour later, I guess. Owen, you're dismissed. And go back up to the 7th floor. So I go up there. They don't tell me, what's dismissed mean, right? So they let us out that night at about 1 o'clock. It was after midnight, right?
Did you get your white spandex bicycle shorts back?
They were bright red.
Oh, okay.
And they said Nike in big black letters on the side. Yeah, I got them back. My brother, can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
My brother used to call them, those are your come fuck me shorts. And he used to tease the shit out of me about wearing those things, man. Oh my God. You can bleep that out. Sorry, I should have said that.
No, it's fine. I don't bleep, but it is what it is. That's okay. It's okay.
So
did they call them come fuck me shorts?
Yeah, that's what you look like in jail, right?
Right.
And I'm like, and I'm 24 years old, strapping young lad and all that shit. So they let us out. So the last part of it, right? You go to the property room, and they're gonna let you out. You get your stuff bag in this paper bag, and and you're in this room, dude, with 60 other dudes, and you're butt naked, and you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta get dressed, right? Oh, I didn't tell you about the part when they line you up and search you when you come in there. That's very humiliating.
Are you talking about the full body cavity search?
They don't do a cavity search, but they line you up butt naked. You bend over, you spread your cheeks and cough while they walk behind you. That's the truth. I mean, anybody that goes into custody has to go through that. So I don't care how bad you are. But it's humiliating.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So so we're waiting to get out, right? And there's this one paralegal dude that's in there, and of course he knows everything, right? And we're gonna sue you. This is inhumane, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you're gonna get jumped when we get out of here. Just shut up, and they'll let us go. They're gonna release us. And this guy is just, my experience with that whole thing was, I think that I realized that there are many, many different ways to view life. And there's many, many battles to pick and choose out there. And some people will pick and choose those battles. Some people don't learn. Some people don't care. Some people feel, and it's just not for me. So I don't drive anymore. If I got to go to court, I go to court. I don't steal. I pay my taxes. I don't want nothing to do with jail. I don't. So that's my jail story. Other than later in life, I did go do some volunteer work where I went and worked with youth in a juvenile hall.
Right. And I know the organization that you work for does a lot of work for with prisoners that are blind or low vision. So
yeah.
So what was it like dating? I mean, I know that most of my life, I was very self-conscious. I avoided situations where people would see that I was losing my eyesight, or, I wouldn't like, I have not been in a dance club ever, because I would just say, I don't like any of that, because I know it'd be a bad environment for me. Some bars I would go to, but it was still, I bump into people, or, if you watch episode with Matt Dittman, he talks about me in bars and just plowing through people and him having to explain what was going on. How was that, dating and everything, since you're very randy?
The first question is, does she have a car and a license? Because I don't.
Right. Were you self-conscious about it, or were you how?
Yeah. Of course. I mean, if I was to go to a bar with a bunch of other guys my age, you got to remember, I wasn't wearing a cane. I wasn't wearing glasses. I would hide them. And so on the surface, I don't look any different than anybody else. And then you see me go to read something, and it's like, and I'm like, got it in my face, smelling the paper.
Right.
And that was a dead giveaway. So, what do? Well, you avoid those kinds of situations, right?
Yeah.
And you end up giving too much money to somebody. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a compromise you make, but there's also a possible cost for it. I remember I went one time, up in Cameron Park, there was this place called Sam's Town, and it was like a big arcade. It's kind of like a Dave and Buster's. It's kind of like what Dave and Buster's is. And so we go up there, me and this gal that I was dating, and she had never seen my glasses, but we're going to the arcade and I want to see what we're doing, right? So I go break out my Coke bottle glasses, and she's like, oh, hell no, I'll put those away. I'll guide you. And I think I told you, what I got from that is I didn't have a lot of self-esteem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it took me a long time to get there. I wasn't, fortunately, I'm not somebody that's dated a lot of women. I've had 3 major relationships in my life. My wife and I have been together now for over 15 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we still like each other, even though I turned the living room into a concert hall. I don't think she was happy about that at all, man. But she knows I'll put it back. She's my best friend, But, and as you were talking earlier, the changes in the things that we go through, it's like when I talk with Tracy and I have a son we met when we were 21, and we have a son who's now 28. And that was, out of marriage.
Now, Tracy's your current wife, correct?
Tracy's my current wife. Yeah. Okay. And the thing is, I love that lady. I loved her since the moment I met her. But I know, and her and I have talked about this, if we would have been together, we would have destroyed the relationship, because I had things in my system that I needed to work out. When I married Tracy, or when we first started dating, seriously, I had a mentor, and we did this thing where I made a list of promises and they were boundaries, right? I won't cheat on you. I won't use certain words around you. There's certain things. And it wasn't really a promise to her, but those were personal boundaries for me. And I found that if I don't cross those boundaries, life's a lot easier, a lot like, I don't have to go back and say, I'm sorry. You can say something, but you can't remove it. It'll never go away. Never.
Yeah.
and you can permanently damage a relationship. And I did that when I was younger, you know, and I'm not proud of it, but it's just the truth.
So let me understand this. You had a child with Tracy 21 years ago?
While I was married to somebody else.
And then you broke up and had 2 other wives, right?
Well, I went back to my wife. We ended up having twins, 3 more kids, actually. I left Denise. That was a toxic relationship because, like I said, the stuff that I said, there was boundaries. I had no boundaries with her. And so there were things that happened in our relationship. And it's, you know, there used to be a time when, oh, she did this for it. None of that matters. I did enough to destroy that relationship.
Now, do you think, I'm going to ask you this because Rachel said this on the TikTok, the Exhausting Sniders yesterday. She was asking, or maybe she just asking me, I can't remember. I don't remember what happened, but it was something to the effect, do you feel like a lot of the problems that we have are related to your blindness? And do you feel like when you talk about, you know, saying things that you wish you hadn't said, did you think it was born out of the low vision? Dealing with it?
No, I think it was an angry young man that had no self-control.
Okay.
I really do. I really do. And I say that later in life because I see my son. I have a son who has cerebral palsy. He lives with me and he's blind and he's got some other stuff going on. And I can see the frustration in him when he gets angry about something. And I can remember when I was younger and the thing is, you know, and I have to talk to him. It's like, son, you have to find some other outlet for that. It's okay to get angry. It's part of life, but you don't want to burn bridges. You don't want to hurt, you know what I mean? It's a feeling. It's not a behavior. It becomes a problem when it's a bad behavior. You know what I mean? I could have kept my mouth shut all those times, but I didn't. And so back to what I was saying with Tracy is if her and I would have gotten together, then we would have destroyed the relationship. Whether it's related because of my eyesight, I don't think so. I just think it was.
Well, I mean, the anger though, what was that from?
You know, Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. I never was angry about the eyesight stuff for me. I think there was times it was disappointing. I'm not going to lie, but I did when, you know, my son Randy had to go through a lot of the stuff that he's gone through. That's when I got angry about it, kind of later in life because it challenges him. And then I remember a time when I'm pushing him down to the bus stop and it starts raining and it's like, come on, God, just give us a break, dude. I'm pushing him in a wheelchair. I can't see what the hell I'm doing. We almost got hit by a car. And you know what I mean? And it wasn't, I had a moment of self-pity in that, but I was really mad about the challenges that he had to go through and that it wasn't fair. You know?
Now you mentioned God. Are you a religious man?
No. I do believe there's something out there. As far as religion goes, I was raised as a born again Christian. My grandmother was a Bible thumper. But I also think, I think really, you know, God or whatever that is, it's kind of a personal relationship. I don't need to prove it to other people. And sometimes I get a little cynical about some of the religions because some of the things they say and the exclusion of others, you know. And maybe that's the way I interpret it. When I was a teenager, I used to go to the Southern Baptist churches, and I love those, especially the Black churches, because they party, they sing, and it was fun.
Yeah, I've been there
it
too.
Was. Yeah. I loved it. But as far and every now and then I'll go to a church just because of a family member, you know, there's something going on with one of the kids or something, and I gotta be honest, man, when they start singing, it does touch me. But I don't go to church, and I don't consider myself a religious person though.
How did your brother deal with your vision loss? Eddie, right?
Yeah. Okay. So we're at the restaurant and we go to where the restrooms are. And I go to the left where the men's is. And he's all, no, Randy, that's the women's. he used to get me with that. He would like, just we joked and teased the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
He would, in a lot of ways, Eddie kind of had my back. Randy, there's somebody coming up, or Randy, and don't do that, or Randy, you're gonna, what I mean. He always watched out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, he's almost 4 years younger than me. He didn't have to wear the glasses. The girls always liked him. He was cuter.
Mm-hmm.
But he was always getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
He's the type of person that you tell him to do something, he would just do it just because.
Mm-hmm.
But we worked as adults. We worked as plumbers. In construction, we built Target stores, and I was trained in the trade, and then I got Eddie in, and Eddie was my helper for a while. But he would drive me around. He's been a great brother, man. He's always been very generous. We've fought, we've had our little fallouts or whatever, but we're still brothers. And just a second. My dog wanted in the room and he wouldn't stop knocking at the door.
Oh, it's okay.
So, but Eddie in a lot of ways was kind of like a friend, and I don't think I was treated differently because of the eyesight. He watched, like I said, he watched out for me. When we would go places, he would drive. There were certain things, I mean, when you live with a sighted person, or any relationship, there's roles that you take on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, never treated me different. I never, ever felt as though I embarrassed him. And even if I did, he'd laugh about it, and he would deny it anyways. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever worried that maybe you've done something that embarrassed your brother?
No, I mean, I don't recall anything that I would have done something to embarrass him. Our age difference is 12 years, so we were doing different things at different times, so we weren't really around each other that much, and so we didn't have that. We weren't going to school at the same time. He was in high school when I was little, and then he left for college, so I didn't see him. But in relation to that, and just relationships in general, what I was thinking is like, I do think about I pushed away a lot of relationships because I didn't want people to have to deal with what I was going through, either the pain or just, I always felt like I was a burden in a lot of ways.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
I felt like I was slowing people down, my friends, yep. Or even if I was in a, relationship with a woman or something like that, I would, I had, one time a woman wanted to have a family with me, and I just was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put you through this. I don't want my child to inherit the pain of the loss of this disease, because it's very, very painful, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
And so, I pushed a lot of stuff away, and it wasn't until I met my wife, Rachel, I started to be open to, embracing life and love and everything. But it took me, 39 years, so.
You do it when you're ready.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that every experience that I've had up to this point has prepared me for this moment right here, right now. I would not have been a faithful husband to Tracy had we got married when I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I would have obliterated that. I needed to go through some loss. I needed to go through what I needed to go through to make sure that I could make those promises and be okay with me. And Brian, I never was around people with vision loss until, I started working where I work. And I didn't realize a lot of the stuff that I had missed out on. I always wanted to go downhill skiing, and pardon us, but people would literally say to me, dude, you remember what happened to John Denver?
Oh, you mean John Denver died in a plane crash, but you're thinking of Sonny Bono?
Sonny Bono. Yeah. But it's like, nobody would ever go skiing with me. And then I start working at this place, and then there's an annual ski trip, and I get to go up to achieve Tahoe, and I have, and I meet this ski instructor, and he puts the boots on me, and he tells me, well, I'm going to be skiing about 20 feet behind you. And I was like, no, you're not. You're going to be with me.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end of the day, he was skiing behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was okay if I fell down. It was okay that, but he let me do it. I always wanted to play drums, like I said, and, you raise kids and all that stuff. And it was at Society, when I met Joe Germino, the guys that are actually coming over today to jam, I met him, and he plays guitar, and they needed somebody to kind of tap on a box and play drums with them. And so I got invited, into that process. And it's not that it's just, I guess maybe my low vision's not an issue here. It doesn't, so what? You're nothing special. And it's welcome to the club. It's not an issue. And we all work out little techniques to deal with stuff. You know what I mean? That person, we can relate to what each other is doing, and we can find solutions and share it. Does that make sense? Am I rambling?
No. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I wanted to explore a little bit, you said you were a plumber, and
Yeah.
what types of jobs did you have throughout your life?
Okay.
And how the hell did you measure things like accurately? I mean, you must have had your nose right on the tape measure, right?
Yeah. And I got really, okay. So for like measuring stuff, you get used to, and I had a journeyman who, Brian, most guys, when you're a plumber, the first thing you want to do is get that torch out and start sweating copper, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the guys were doing that by the end of their first year. I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing all the fitting. I knew those copper fittings. I knew the cast iron fittings. I knew their dimensions. So I could look over there and say, oh, it's a 9-inch takeoff for that 4-inch no hub 90 that's sitting there.
Mm.
And like I said,
I have no idea what you just said, but I'm with you.
But I would recognize the fittings and stuff, and I could use things in proportion. It's like, okay, that's going to fit there. That's going to fit there. If I'm looking at a wall and it's made out of concrete masonry unit, they're block walls, the bricks.
Mm-hmm.
I know the dimensions of, and I can just count the bricks, or I can say, okay, those trusses are, and you learn little tricks. I mean, sighted people are doing the same thing. I just don't see, so you get an idea, and then you look at the tape measure. Yeah. I used it's called a Fat Max. It's made by Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 1.25 inch wide blade on it. It's really big, bold numbers on it.
Mm-hmm.
I used that, but I wasn't allowed to use the torch. And the reason, it had nothing to do with my vision. It's that my journeyman drilled into, he was preparing me to run Target stores, Target construction jobs. He wasn't preparing me to sweat fittings. He wanted me to be able to run my own jobs. So he taught me why you do this, why you do that. He taught me the math, how you do the math, how you can, you got a storm drain coming down a wall. It's 12-inch cast iron. I mean, one of those fittings is 200 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to cut this pipe and get it up on the wall, and there's a 45-degree offset. Well, he taught me the 3-4-5, method, which is this little math trick that you can use to figure out how long to cut that pipe. Mm-hmm. So when it came time for me to actually get the torch out and do it, I was a pro. My stuff looked really, really good. Mm-hmm. But I've worked in radio. I worked as a board op, and then I did programming at a classical radio station. I did production there too. I used to record Tom Sullivan and a guy named Bob Suter in the mornings. They would do traffic and business reports. Mm-hmm. I would do ID tags. I would do all this stuff, like when the commercials come in, they come on a reel of tape. You put them on carts and you put them into the system. I've done internship out at 93 Rock, which is a local, classic rock station now. And I worked in the public affairs department. So I would interview people from, the board of Loomis board of county board of directors or whatever, because all the stations have to do a public affairs thing. They have to donate so much time every week. So that's what I did there. Let's see. I worked at Target briefly. I did. Oh, I never told you about this. I worked for Sacramento Theatrical Lighting. I was a stage lighting. I was an IOT.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was a union member. We did like 99% of the Bill Graham Present shows here. I've been in the Greek Theater. I've been at the Cal Palace and seen Rush doing a sound check. That was a fun job. That was a fun job. And if you were on the scale jobs, you made really good money, but that usually meant that you were working after midnight.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while. I really, really enjoyed that. The reason why I got that job was one of my first jobs. Remember the guy I told you that I took the Cadillac? Well, he owned a TV repair shop. And part of paying that Cadillac was I had to work a summer for him.
Okay.
And so I learned how to read schematics and basic electronics and DC theory. He taught me all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I applied for the job at the reason why they hired me was they knew I could read wiring diagrams. They knew about the vision thing that I wasn't going to, but like all the color gels, those are all numbered. They have a Roscoe number on them.
Right.
There's like 20 different purples, but they have a number on them and you match them. The customer will order that. You're familiar with stage lighting.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I worked as a drug and alcohol counselor for a number of years at a nonprofit.
Okay.
And I worked with a lot of mandated clients and I got burned out. And after that, I went to work where I currently work.
Now, how about raising children with low vision? I mean, did that scare the shit out of you when you had your first child, or how did you feel about all that?
I felt like I had a new life.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, Emily, was the love of my life. She was we were extremely close. She was planned. Even though me and her mother should not have been together, very, very, very close to her. It kind of just gave me a new purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's times in my life when I've been down. It's like you can't give up because you have these kids. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I ever wanted to commit suicide, but there's been times, I think everybody's like you went and lived in Mexico. It's like I just packed my stuff up and I'm going to Vermont, and go see Ben and Jerry. But the kids, I think having my family really saved me in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. I can relate to that. Yeah.
It's whether I want the responsibility or not, you have it. And I will say this, the kids grew up poor. There's no way, unless you make millions of dollars, but there's something more valuable than money, and it's the time. And when you have that many kids, it's hard. There were times when, I can't afford to do it for this one, so I just won't do it for all of them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that doesn't work. That just doesn't work. So it's really, how can you make something happen? Understand that life's not fair, that no matter what you do, somebody's, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But, raising the kids with low vision, I mean, the cool thing about it was when they were old enough to drive and I wanted to ride somewhere, they volunteered for it, man. Right away. So I got some friends of mine, and it's a blind couple, and their son is just getting ready to get his permit, and it's like, oh yeah, he's going to be driving us around the next year. You know what I mean? So
you have 7 choices of rides.
I have 9 because Tracy has 2 daughters also, so I have 2 bonus daughters also.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, and we're all within 20 miles of each other.
So you have no issues with transportation?
No, I have choices. Yeah. Plus I can take Lyft, or I can take the bus and the train. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes, like when I was taking college classes,
mm-hmm.
I would just love to just sit on the bus and the train, and I'd put in an audiobook or listen to my textbook.
Right.
And because this, Brian, you work in, kind of in a human services role, and you're going from one crisis to the next, or you're going from one thing to the next, and it's always helping somebody else. So very rarely do we get the time to just be in the moment and just be me and do what I want to do. And if I want to sit and listen to Hunt for Red October again for the 20th time, I can do that when I'm on the bus. It might take me a little bit longer to get there. Huh?
One ping.
Yeah. Mark Aurelius. Yep. Great book. I love those books.
Right.
I need to get it actually back into listening to books again. I've been listening to a lot of technical stuff,
Right.
but you know, I look at, I mean, I've actually been offered rides to go somewhere. So it's like, you know, I think I thank you, but I think I'm gonna just, because I want that time alone.
But I worry, I have OCD, so I worry about public transportation. I'm always constantly worried about sitting in pee.
True.
Have you sat in piss?
If I think, no, I haven't. I have sat on food before. I have.
Right.
Sometimes if it's questionable, I just won't sit. I'll just stand there.
Yeah. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah. I have sat
grab
down
onto that,
before, like
grab
on the
onto
light
that
rail.
stripper pole and
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, stand, or I'll, I did one time, I got on the train and I don't know what the hell I put my hand in. So, you know, they're two seats side by side, and I sat down and I put my hand down like, you know, just like you would. And it was like, something wet there. And I don't know if it was like, you know, you have a dog. So, you know, when a dog throws up their dog food,
Right.
that's what it reminded me of. And it's like, that can't be that. Yeah. So anyways, that's
well,
happened.
You're still here. You're okay. So that's,
Yeah.
So let's
I've
talk
lost two
about,
iPads on there and I got them back.
you got what?
I said, you know, to give RT props, I've actually lost two iPads on the light rail, and I was
Really?
actually able to get them back. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, that restores faith in humanity. So let's talk about your current work, and then I want to lead into Beyond Barriers Unscripted.
Okay. So my current work, word got around that Randy's actually pretty good with computers, because I took some classes there in 2015.
Thank you for keeping the third person going. I appreciate that.
So
I think
Randy
you should do that all the time. Like, do that. Be like, Randy doesn't like that.
I'm going to do that
Randy
with my students and see what happens. I'm going to get reported. So I take classes. I wanted to go, after I left work, like I said, I got burnout working in AOD, alcohol and drug treatment. I got just burnt out with it. So I went and I wanted to learn how to teach technology, what I do currently now. And you have to go through this certification course. And in order to get DOR to pay for it, they made me go back to Society for the Blind. So while I was there for a month or two, and I took some classes. But Paul, who's now my current boss, he caught on that I was really good at with computers, and it was really good at explaining it. So, and I told him, I just want to go get the certification. And so I go through the coursework. I get a call from Henry Rollins one day. I wasn't expecting it. And he's like, hey man, Paul says you're pretty good with computers. We're looking for an AT instructor. And we know that you're in this ATI program. So I got offered the job. And so I teach assistive technology. I teach a lot of Windows computers, Microsoft Office. I teach the JAWS screen reader. I teach Fusion, which is a Zoom. What's that, Brian?
And I wanted to say you do it extremely well, because you have helped me become more proficient using my screen reader, JAWS, and it's alleviated a lot of stress. It really has.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm much more. I almost wanted to call you yesterday because I was having an issue with the website, because I'm like,
Give me a call, man.
I know I did, but in any case, but my point is you've done phenomenal work with me, and you've helped me so much, and I deeply appreciate that. It's been
thank you.
Yeah, it's made my life a lot more less stressful.
So this is what I mean about how everything in life prepares you for where you're at now. Remember, I had a love for music, a love for audio production, a love for technology and computers. And now I'm working at a place that I work with computers. I work with technology. I get to work with the latest stuff. A lot of really
you got
new.
to meet a NASA blind NASA computer
I
programmer.
got to meet the blind man in black.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And you know, so when I start working at Society for the Blind, I get this student, Joe Germino. He's about 24 years old. oh, I can play guitar. Okay, fine. So I bring a guitar into the office one day. We shoot this little video of him playing the song Everlong by Foo Fighters, and I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I hadn't touched an instrument in 30 years. And I was hooked. And so I start going to the pawn shop and buying stuff. And we start meeting, and we ended up starting a music support group at Society for the Blind. And basically what that is twice a week, we would meet up in a room, and we'd have a room full of instruments that were donated, or we'd bring in our stuff, and we would just jam.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's great about it is nobody ever tells you that, hey, go sit in the corner and practice and come back when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
You can come in and grab a flute, whatever. Well, right now because of COVID, but you know, and we'll help you play. And we'll, and, you know, the next thing you know, you're playing music with other people. And I love that philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Just that people welcome me in. And so that's what the music support group's about. It's about support. The other thing I've seen is when people go through vision loss, it's the grieving process, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they get angry, and they get isolated, and they get depressed, and they go through all this stuff. And what I noticed, we had a student who had recently lost his vision due to a motorcycle accident. He went through hell, man. And when he finally got healthy enough to come in and take classes, he was not really, you know, he just was really quiet, really isolated. And when we did this video where we're just like, come on, dude, let's go sit in my room, we're gonna play with the guitar, because we knew that he used to play guitar. And when we got, and he just kind of let his guard down, and just, I had never seen this guy talk so much and get so engaged. And it's just, you could see there was a therapeutic value with that, you know.
So
and
it's like music therapy.
It kind of is. It kind of is. And it's like, dude, they're going to pay me to do this. This is something I've wanted to do my whole life. I get to work with computers. Now we've got, you know, a music support group. Now I'm actually playing drums. I own 2 drum kits now. I'm not that great, but I do get asked by people to, hey, you want to jam, you know, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Which is a compliment.
It is. Some of the greatest compliments are when it's a musician that you look up to, and they want to include you, or they give you, you know, a little compliment. It means a lot. It does.
Well, the Foo Fighters are playing, and you might have an opportunity to get up there.
Dave Grohl actually tells a story about wanting to be a drummer. He goes, I go to this concert, and the drummer breaks his arm or something, and they have me, and there's a show called Back and Forth. There's a documentary on him, and he talks about it. But so the podcast, you know, this leads to a podcast eventually. We had been talking in the staff meeting for the last couple of years, hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool to do a podcast or whatever? And so when COVID hit, we got sent home, and we're working remotely, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't meet in the music group anymore, but we still want to do audio production. So I had a student, Omar, and we sat down, and as an assignment, he's completely blind, and we were learning how to use this software called Logic Pro to do audio production with. It's what I use for my podcast, actually. And so we started, well, let's see, first of all, can we collaborate on this project remotely with each other? And then, so we record this thing, we use Zoom, we record an interview, and I send it over here, and it's like, okay, your assignment is I want you to edit this. You can do whatever you want to with it. You can add, you know, sound effects, whatever. So he sends me back this file, and it sounded like something out of 1980s morning radio. You'd say something and it, da-dum, bum, you know what I mean? There would be all these little sound effects and stuff. And it's like, and it's actually, that's my first podcast episode, is my interview with Omar.
Mm-hmm.
We did do video, but because I edit, when you start cutting video, the person will look real choppy, and it's too much. And podcasts, as far as I'm concerned, they're mostly audio. They are audio.
Mm-hmm.
I do generate a YouTube. Actually, the distributor I use will generate a YouTube video for me when I upload. But the podcast is really about, it's called Beyond Barriers Unscripted, because the music support group is called the Beyond Barriers Project. And it's kind of an off product of that, or offshoot of that.
I did not know that. I did not know that they were related at all.
They are. And the reason why the name Beyond Barriers is, I had, there was a musician that used to come in, Gerald Medina, and he did not speak English, and I don't speak Spanish. So we had a language barrier, and we were in the music room one day, and we had to talk to each other, and we used our iPhones to translate. So it's like, and I was thinking about it later. So we got beyond that barrier, and that's where the name Beyond Barriers, you know, I asked him, hey, what do you think about the name Beyond Barriers? And he goes, I love it. And so we had to name the music group something, because we started, I started when we started the music group, one of the other members was really adamant, we got to record everything. I don't care if it's just a crappy iPhone recording, but we have to record everything. And we've been doing that for years. And so I wanted to share with the members when they come in and play so they can hear themselves play, right? And the easiest thing that we could come up with is just load it on YouTube. You can send them a link. If they're new to iPhone, they're learning voiceover, they can double tap on that link. It'll open, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's where the YouTube channel comes from, the music one. So the Beyond Barriers project is the actual music group. And then on YouTube, it's BB Unscripted, because Beyond Barriers Unscripted was already taken.
Mhm.
And that's the podcast YouTube channel.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, and I was just thinking about, so what would you say to those that are experiencing vision loss? Like, what is something to keep in mind when going through this? Because I was thinking about the fact that you're constantly in contact with people like me that are grieving the loss of what was and having to move forward and adapt.
I always tell people, welcome home. And what that means is you're with your people. I know that there are times that you are alone. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that or say that your feelings of being alone are invalid, because they're very valid. But when you're ready, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to do anything to you or ask you to do anything that we haven't done ourselves or would be willing to do ourselves. We're not going to take you somewhere and drop you off and leave you there. I took ethics training. Thou shalt, do no harm, not thou, but do no harm is number one rule. But you never take a client or ask them to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm sighted, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about having sighted AT instructors, or even, I have my own prejudice against, I would rather work with, for O&M, for mobility training, I would rather work with somebody who's completely blind.
Mm-hmm.
If they were training me. That's just my prejudice. That's just how I feel. And I understand that a lot of us that have vision, even though we know JAWS, we might not know it as well as somebody who uses it all the time. So I'm very honest and straightforward with my clients and my students. And if I don't know something, I'll tell you. I think credibility is number one. I think that's the one thing I have going for me. Because Brian, you've seen me make mistakes. The joke with you was we'd get through the class, like, okay, he didn't stump me today. And then right before we go to hang up, you would ask me something that I hadn't dealt with in a while, or it was something I just simply didn't know. And I'd have to tell you, hey, Brian, I'm going to have to look that up. And you were patient with me. And I think that students appreciate the honesty with that.
I did. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. One of the most difficult things about working full-time and adapting to blindness is there's no time. So,
nope.
and at the end of the day, I don't want to, listening to a fucking screen reader all day, just listening to spreadsheets, and then at the end of the day, listening to training videos, I don't want to spend my time that way. And that's not how I learn either. I can't just listen to something and then go, okay, I know how to do it. I got to do it.
No, I need to make the mistakes and figure it out.
Yeah, I have to do it, as if, I'm doing it. And I can't just listen to it and go, oh, okay, I memorized that keyboard shortcut. I have to have some kind of muscle memory to remember it, So where do you see yourself going from here?
So the podcast, let's just talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
The podcast, you put a show out every week, and most podcasters do. I'm putting out an average of 2 a month. I work full time, and I'm going to be honest. I didn't have my music room for the last year and a half, and I recently got that back. And so a lot of my spare time has been spent on the music part. I really want to get back in the building and develop not just a music support group, but I really want to develop a program where people that are writers, they want to write copy, people that want to learn how to do voiceover work, I mean, actually be an announcer. I see that I have a skill set, and many others in the agency I work for have the talents and skill set, and then a lot of my students. Let's combine this. Let's expand the music support group. Let's start creating our own educational content, right? Let's really explore TikTok. You guys are killing it on TikTok. I started a music support group, TikTok, Beyond Barriers Pro on TikTok, and people really like the videos, man. And it's just little videos of us, clips of us playing music. So I want to get more. I really would like to have more people involved with this. I would like this to become an official program where I work. I would like to go more into content creation. I'm going to, continue to teach technology. I understand that, but I'm always looking for something, a new adventure. And I think technology, audio production, writing, we have a writer's workshop. That's one of the little activities that we do. I'd love to reach out to them and have them involved, and get some of these students, because a lot of students come in and they're kind of, you're new to blindness. It's like, well, what can I do? I used to drive a backhoe, or I was a truck driver, or I was a doctor or judge or whatever, right? And so now it's like, when you're new to being blind, you don't know what you can do. You don't have a clue. And so, and a lot of people think that they have to go work for the state, or they have to go work for, and that's great, or they have to go work in a call center, and that's great if that's what you want to do. But there's other things. There's a huge movement in content creation. People are making money. I've had 3 students in the last year. They're not making a living off of doing it, but they're making money doing Instagram and TikTok.
Right.
And
yeah,
and
I think there's a need definitely for a Department of Creative Rehabilitation, because I mean, there isn't. I think about like the DOR, right? If you're blind, one of the things that a way to make a lot of money, like you can make 6 figures, is if you get one of those contracts through the state where you do a vending thing, like where you own a vending machine service.
But I don't want to do that though.
Yeah.
I want to create content. You said it earlier. I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I never have.
Yeah.
I never have. I take it because it's secure. I really like where I work. They really encourage you to think outside of the box. They're extremely supportive of what I get to do. And I really do look at it as I get to do this stuff, because like with the music group, it's fun to play an instrument by yourself, but it's way better when you have other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a group. It's a support group. It's confidence and community, man.
Yeah. So I want to try something with you here. This is I mentioned it last time, but I didn't mention it at the beginning of this, but I want to try something. It's an experiment. And what it is because the way this show was created, it was kind of convoluted. It was a lot of different ideas come together to form it. And it really, I've noticed that it's transformed into something else. It's really become a necessity for me to have a creative outlet, and it's become a necessity just to do it because I feel like I have to do it in order to survive. And then the other thing is, I've noticed there's a sad part of it, is a lot of the people that I interview are people from my life that I've met. Some people are people I met from my wife, but most of them are people I've met throughout my life. And it's kind of like revisiting parts of my life. And then another part of it kind of made me think, wow, I'm really grateful that I've had these conversations, because there's a part of me that feels like this is maybe all I'll have in the end, is these videos and these audio recordings. And I thought, wow, it's almost like a collection of interactions throughout my life. And then I kind of thought, I don't know where this is going or what's happening, but it made me think about, death in a way. And so my question to you is, and I'm going to start asking this of everybody, what, if you could I just want you to think of the first thing that comes to your mind. what would be on your epitaph, or what would you?
Oh my God. My sponsor had me do this. What do you want read at your eulogy?
Yeah. What is your eulogy or
I
epitaph?
actually wrote my own eulogy about 15 years ago. Oh
Really?
man.
I mean, it doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to read it unless you
I
want to.
want to be remembered as somebody that's credible and that inspired other people. That's it.
Now, what is the credibility part of it?
Meaning that you trusted me, you were willing to, because you knew me and your experiences with me, it helped you become a better person. And I know that sounds egotistical, but I think that that's really the point in life. If we were meant to be alone, we wouldn't be talking.
Mhm.
So and you said it a minute ago, you were talking about, I have this collection of stories that will basically be here after I'm gone. And I look at the music support group that chronicles what we did with that group. My podcast kind of does that. But what I've noticed is people that I've come into contact with, and that's what the premise of the podcast is, they've simply inspired me.
Mhm.
I believe in them. I trust them. They inspire me. Their credibility is good with me. I don't, credibility is like when you tell me something, I don't question it. Does that make sense? And credibility is when you say you're going to do something, you show up and do it, right?
Well, I mean, I think
You
it's
don't flake on
important. I mean,
people.
I can tell you
Yeah.
this, and I think partially it's because of my own mental health stuff, but I have serious trust issues, and being blind has only made that worse. And
But you had to trust me.
yeah, and I have to trust people. I have to. I don't have a choice.
Yep.
Like I can't, stay isolated and live my own life because I'm interdependent, and we all are, really. I mean, if we really think about it, there really is no such thing as independence. We're interdependent, in
It's
all
built
aspects.
into our species. We're not. Yeah, we are not meant to be alone.
Yeah. And so trust is an important part of adapting to blindness, right?
I think it's critical life, period.
Right.
But I think there's even more unique challenges. You had said something, and I've heard somebody else say it, and I've actually had it experience me. Somebody come up and get startled. The whole freaking day I'm on edge because I'm afraid I'm gonna get startled by somebody, or you never know when it's gonna happen.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you experience this or somebody else does?
I have.
Yeah. I mean, I get startled all the time because somebody will, come up to me. Or the other thing is I'm constantly, one of the reasons I mentioned earlier, my throat, the reason I'm having trouble talking is because I'm so tense all the time because I'm constantly, I don't want to bump into people. I don't want to, like the other day, I missed the stairs and went off into a flower bed,
So there's a whole trust. I mean, there's even a challenge with trusting yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got issues with trust and then you lose your confidence, and I'm just saying that I think that blindness can add a little bit more to that. I talk with women all the time that are blind, and they're afraid to walk around with their purse. They're afraid they're going to be vulnerable. They don't trust society.
Yeah, I mean, being a woman, I think about Dave Chappelle. He has a bit about, he likens one time he was doing comedy for drug dealers, and they gave him $20,000.
Yep, I saw that. Yeah.
And he had to go home on the subway, and he said holding like $20,000, something that everybody wants, is like being a woman. Like, it is like, a guy wants to have sex with a woman all the time. You know what I mean? Like, and so he related that to what it's like to be a woman, and being a woman with no vision is got to be even. I really haven't thought of that until you mentioned it.
The thing is, guys, we don't talk about it, but we have a lot of the same fears. We have a lot of the same insecurities. We just don't talk about it. And one of the ideas we're throwing around at work is actually having a men's support group and a women's support group. And of course it's dealing with blindness. How, you know, things like, how do you date? I mean, you asked me earlier, right? That's a question that a lot of people are even afraid to ask. But if you're in a room and the question is just boom, it's delivered there, and it's just guys, and we can talk about, yeah, I got really embarrassed, you know, because I can't drive or whatever, you know what I mean? Of course, we're not going to talk about that with ladies in the room, and they have their issues that they, you know.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a really good idea.
well, yeah, I think about that. You know, my wife, one of the things that when we started dating, I'm like, you know, this is going to be difficult. And she's like, the blindness is not difficult. It's basically, she's saying it's my personality that's difficult.
It's the insecurities and the lack
Yeah.
of confidence and those things that make us human.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a gift to have somebody, though, that can accept that. That's what love is, right? They accept that and they cherish it and they embrace it, and they don't need to change you.
Yeah.
It's unconditional. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not all of us get to have that. You know what I mean? I have it. It sounds like you have it. And my credibility, I need to keep my credibility with her. And I hope I inspire her to be a better person, because she inspires me.
Right. Right. Well, you inspire me as well. And I deeply appreciate you being on the show today and
Thanks, Brian.
and doing it again, because I think we spent like over an hour and a half at least until the internet went out, and then it got real awkward. And I was just talking to myself, but thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It happens. But thank you so much for sharing what is alive within you. And thank you for being an amazing assistive technology instructor. I've learned so much, and it's helped me and alleviate a lot of stress. And I thank you for that. And thank you for your podcast as well, because it's a resource for people that are low vision or blind, that are trying to understand how to adapt. And it shows, your podcast shows people doing just that and doing the things they love. And that's so important, is to continue to do the things that we love, despite our loss. And it's very important. And I thank you for doing that. Now, do you have a website for Beyond Barriers Unscripted, or so everybody can find it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify?
Yep. So if you just Google search Beyond Barriers Unscripted, you have to have unscripted, because if you just Beyond Barriers, you'll get other stuff.
Okay.
But Beyond Barriers Unscripted Podcast, it'll show up on all the feeds. It's actually, my host is Podbean, but you'll go to my webpage, and it's got all my episodes on there, all the show notes.
What is I'm sorry, what is the webpage?
It's Beyond Barriers Unscripted, but it's a webpage that's hosted through Podbean.
Okay.
Which is a distributor.
Okay.
If you want to enjoy it on YouTube, BB Unscripted is a YouTube channel.
Okay.
That's the podcast.
If you send it to me, if you email me the links, sure. I'll put them in the show description.
Got it. Will do, man.
So you can find Beyond Barriers Unscripted. Why am I having trouble saying that? Beyond Barriers Unscripted on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever podcasts are available.
Yep.
And is there anything else you'd like to share? Anything you'd like to promote?
Just follow your dreams. You know, if you have a dream and you're thinking about doing it and you're talking about doing it, you still ain't doing it.
You know, it's funny.
You got to do it.
I was listening to Mark Maron's podcast, and he was interviewing somebody recently. I can't remember the person's name, but somebody like a teacher was telling this person and said, if you want to, I think it was like be a painter or something like that. He said, don't have a backup plan, because you'll do it.
They stole that from Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey says it all the time. Yep. Right. That's a Steve Harvey saying. Yeah, absolutely. You know, do it. I could be talking about wanting to play drums, or I could go buy some drums and do it. You know what I mean? So it's you ain't doing it if you ain't doing it. And life's too short, you know, to just sit and coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Embrace what you have. Life's a gift, and inspiration's everywhere. If you just, you know, live in the moment.
Thank you, Randy Lee Owen, everybody. Randy Lee Owen. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What you were saying?
No, I'm just saying you inspire me. You keep
Oh,
this
well,
going.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it. And thank you for being here. Randy, Lee Owen, everybody. And you can find Beyond Barriers Unscripted on YouTube, wherever podcasts are available. I'm the Blind Man in Black, your host, Brian Snyder. You can find me on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. And you can find my wife and I on The Exhausting Snyders. Her name is Rachel Snyder. And everybody, be kind and loving to each other. And now we're going to have our awkward ending.
Okay.
You ready for awkwardness?
Okay. The awkward silence. So you can cut this out
No, I can't. Hold
if
on.
you want.